Today we're hanging out here in the salon and I want to talk to you about what to do if you mess up a client's hair. How to fix the situation, not just the hair. So let's get started. Alright guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about how to handle the situation around messing up someone's hair. And here's the thing. We have all been there at some point in our career, and if you haven't yet, you will. It just happens. So today I want to talk about what to do if you mess up someone's hair and how to actually ease the situation to make sure that you're still retaining a client and to remedy anything that could have gone wrong in this process. But before we dive in, if this is our first time hanging out or the first time you're here on my YouTube channel, my name is Jamie Dana, and if you are a hairstylist or salon owner who is wanting to grow their business, have a life that they love, and want to learn more about Instagram business tips and technical hair tips, you are here in the right place. Every single week on my channel, that's what I give you. So make sure to hit the subscribe button right now and stay tuned, because every single week you're gonna get a new video that is going to help you as a hairstylist or salon owner grow your business. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty details about what to do in a situation like this, I want to set some ground rules or a baseline, because obviously there are a lot of different variables in situations like this, and so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because there are a lot of different variables when it comes to situations like this. So I just want to set a baseline so that we're all on the same page and that you can walk forward feeling confident in a situation just like this. Okay, so the baseline is this. Let's say you have a client who comes in, you do a very thorough consultation, and no matter what you do, your client is still unhappy. But you did everything to set the expectations, you did everything in your abilities to create the look or desired look that they were going for, and you communicated that throughout the entire thing. Yet they still just weren't super stoked or super happy. At the end of the day, this is not your fault. This is more on them. So we're not really gonna be talking about things like this where you did everything in your power, you communicated, and you just still have a client that's unhappy. That's not what we're talking about in this situation. We're actually talking about situations where something doesn't go 100%. And no matter how long you've been doing hair, you're still gonna make mistakes, or things aren't gonna turn out 100% every single time. Maybe the color doesn't take right, or a chemical service goes a little awry. Something's going to happen. Sometimes our results aren't exactly what we expected, and it's how we handle these situations that determine whether or not that client comes back to us in the future and still trusts us as the expert. So we're gonna talk through 6 steps on how to remedy a situation if you mess up someone's hair. So step number 1, take responsibility for the mistake. So whether it was your fault or the fault of the color line or something just didn't go 100% perfect, regardless, you're still in charge and you need to take responsibility for whatever happened. And I know it is so tempting to want to just brush it under the rug or cross your fingers, hoping that the client's not gonna notice, try to blow dry their hair really quickly, get them out of the salon before they say anything. But in reality, this is not setting you up for success and could actually lose you a client in the long run. And I get it, we have all been there when you've been blow drying the hair and a section is just not laying right, or you're noticing a bleed mark, or something's not as blended as you thought it would be, or it's a little brassier than maybe you had thought. And it is so easy to curl and style the hair and send the client on their way, or blow dry them really quickly away from the mirror and hope they don't notice. But this is just gonna come back to bite you in the butt, right? Clients will notice later on. But it's so much better to call out your mistake, act as the professional, and take control of the situation. And it's better to fix it now when your client is still here in the salon, still in your chair, than to get a text message or call from them a couple days later. Not only is this saving you time because they're already here, but it's also saving you so much anxiety, because how many times have you let a client leave with a less than perfect result and you know that it could have been better or could have been easily fixed while they were there, but you didn't have time, or you were too stressed, or you were too anxious to call it out, or whatever the case might be, and you're stressing about it night after night after night, waiting for that text message or waiting for that call for them to tell you that something isn't quite right, or worse, them to never contact you and you actually lose a client from it. So not only is taking responsibility saving you time in the long run, but it's saving you a lot of anxiety, and it could be saving your relationship with this client. So step number one, as hard or as difficult as it might feel, take responsibility for the mistake. Which brings me to step number two. Try to fix it as quickly as possible. Now, a lot of the examples that I'm gonna give in this video are color examples because that's what I specialize in and that's the type of mistakes that I used to make. But of course, this can apply to all types of services, whether it's cuts or braiding or blow dries or whatever, right? Chemical services, there are things that do not turn out the way we expected. So just wanted to mention that I will be talking about color services, but this applies to everything. So when I'm talking about try to fix it as quickly as possible, if there's something that you can fix that day, right then and there, do it. Not only, like I said, is this gonna save you time from them having to come back in for a whole nother appointment, having to blow dry the hair again, having to wash the hair again, or whatever, having to take another appointment slot, but it's saving you that anxiety of having to stress about it all that time too. Plus, when you fix it right away, you're in charge of the situation. And a client doesn't go home wondering, oh my gosh, is this not what I asked for? Or is there something a little bit funky, right? So when you fix it right then and there, it gives them less time to overanalyze and to overthink about it. Versus when they go home, they're sitting there looking at it in their car, sitting at it looking in their bedroom, in the mirror, in their bathroom, whatever the case might be. They're thinking about it for days, and now they have anxiety of like, should I call my stylist and get it fixed, or should I just ignore it and never go back to them again? So get it fixed as quickly as possible. Now I know one of the biggest reasons why we don't fix it right then and there is because sometimes we have other clients that day and it's going to cause us to run late with our other clients. But at the end of the day, salvaging this relationship with the client who's in your chair, who is going to pay you money, is sometimes more important than running late. You can call your other clients, you can say, hey, you know what, I'm running an hour late, and readjust your schedule, maybe even reschedule someone, but I promise you it's going to be worth it for the person who's in your chair. And one of the best pieces of advice that I can give is as you're blow drying the hair or as you're at the shampoo bowl and something isn't quite right, take just a minute to step back into the back room or step away from your client, collect your thoughts, collect what you're going to do before you start to spin out and freak out, because nothing's worse than having a panic attack in front of your client trying to act like everything's fine, right? You're like trying to blow dry the hair and you're like, everything's fine, don't look over here. Take a minute to step away. And even if that means saying something to your client like, give me 1 second, I'm gonna go call my next client just to let them know that I'm running a few minutes behind. And that's your excuse to go step away, collect your thoughts, think about what you're going to do with this client, and let the receptionist know to call your clients, or you going to call your other clients and letting them know you're running late, because nothing's worse than if you're trying to fix client number 1 and client number 2 shows up and you're trying to juggle everybody. Just call your client, let them know, they'll be understanding. It's not that big of a deal. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's worth it to fix the situation now versus sending the client home. If you try to ignore the problem and send them home, this is going to hurt your relationship with your client, and it could cause them to not trust you as the expert anymore. So step number 2 is try to fix it as quickly as possible. Step number 3, be realistic and transparent with the expectations. So let's be real, sometimes we do screw up or things just didn't turn out the way that we thought. Sometimes it's even to the point where we said, hey, we could get you to this result and that didn't happen. That's on you. At the end of the day, your consultation and you setting up the expectations for your client from the beginning are part of your job. So if that's something that constantly is coming up for you, you need to make sure that you're going back to your consultations and setting up expectations with your clients in the consultation to begin with, so that you're not running into this problem. But sometimes that can happen. And so when we're going to fix the problem, we also need to 100% be realistic and set the expectations at that point as well. Because again, things are gonna happen, but if we overpromise and underdeliver, we're again losing trust with that client. So what's a better situation is to underpromise and try to overdeliver as much as possible. And some mistakes can't be fixed that day, right then and there. But what can you do to remedy the situation as quickly as possible? Sometimes it can be fixed, a little tweak right then and there, and then sometimes you do need to have them come back for another appointment while you go and dive in a little bit deeper to fix the problem. But you do need to set that expectation, and even saying something to your client like, hey, we didn't get you to this result today. I'm gonna make a quick little adjustment here, but it's not gonna be 100% where I want it to be. So I'm going to have you come back in next week so we can tackle this issue and get you to the desired result that you're looking for, right? It's just being transparent with your clients and being realistic with them. You wanna make sure that they feel like you're letting them in on what's going on and not trying to hide a bunch of stuff. Because if it looks like you're trying to hide something and you're trying to be sneaky about it, they're going to get nervous, and again, that's going to lose trust in you as the expert. So under promise, over deliver as much as you can, and just be realistic and transparent with the expectations. Step number 4, go above and beyond. Especially if something was your fault, it was your mistake, something technical or something went wrong. It wasn't like the color was like a bad batch of color, or the hair was a bad batch of extension hair, right? Sometimes there are things that are out of our control. We still have to take responsibility for them because we are the professional and clients don't want to have bad hair. So we do take responsibility for those things, but at the same time, there are times when we do screw up. And that's okay, it happens, it's normal. It's a part of being a hairstylist and it's part of learning as you grow. But if something does happen, you wanna ask yourself, what can I do to make this better right now? Maybe they need some retail products to take home that you can gift them, or maybe it's even just some sample products that you have that you can gift them as well to kind of remedy whatever issue's going on. Can you offer them to come back in for an additional service? Maybe they need an extra toner or a trim or whatever that might look like. And maybe the remedied situation means they need something a little bit bigger. So maybe we caused some damage and they need something like extensions, or maybe we cut a hole into their haircut and you need to fill it in with something. To be honest, this has literally happened to me in the past. I've had to put in a couple tape-ins to my client because I screwed up their cut or I screwed up their color. It happens, but I wanna make sure that I can remedy that situation with my client. I'm not gonna charge them for that hair. I'm going to go take it out of my pocket because my client is more important than a couple dollars for, some hair extensions. Because my relationship with my client is more important than what it might cost me for a retail product or what it might cost me out of my pocket for a few tape-in hair extensions. And I don't want this to turn into how can I give them a bunch of free things because I feel bad. I want you just to be thinking, how can I make it up to them without having to give them a bunch of free things? But at the end of the day, sometimes they do need a little bit of something to remedy the situation or to remedy the issue that's going on. So step number 4 is just go above and beyond and do as much for your client as you can to remedy the situation. Now, step number 5 is a little bit of a harder one because sometimes there are gonna be some clients that are still a little unhappy. So if your client is still really unhappy, I want you to ask them, what would you feel is fair to make this situation better for you? And that's putting the ball in their court. Typically, most clients aren't gonna ask for the sun and the moon. They're gonna ask for something small or ask for you to trim it up or toner or whatever the case might be. A lot of times they're going to ask for something a lot less than what we were willing to give them, because so often in this situation, especially if this is the first time this has ever happened to you, maybe this is the first mistake you've ever made, or you're a newer stylist and this is kind of the first time that you're having to deal with a situation like this. Trust me, it's not fun. I get it. I remember being there. But our tendency is to give them everything for free and just say, come back for like 3 more appointments and I want to make sure that it's perfect and I want to make sure that it's better. And we overgive. And yes, it is important to go above and beyond, but I'm also not a huge fan of just giving them everything for free, especially when it's something that could just be resolved with a few minor adjustments. I'm also not a huge fan of giving a full refund for services, because at the end of the day, it still cost you your time, they still did get a service, and it did cost you product most likely. All of that costs money. And so if you give them a full refund for the services, a lot of times you're gonna be losing money out from that. Now, I will say there are some variables that go on to situations like this. So what I want you to do is I want you to trust your judgment and trust your gut. Unless you're at the point where you literally screwed up the hair so bad that it's worse off than when they came in, a lot of times I just don't feel like there's a justification for completely refunding the entire service. And even to do any refunds at all, I feel like sometimes there is potentially reason to give a partial refund, but ultimately we want to stay away from giving away money or giving back money as much as we can and instead offer upgrades, right? So come on back in for an appointment where we're gonna tone it up, or come back in for a trim in 3 weeks, or come back in, I'm gonna put in a couple tape-in extensions. Whatever that might look like, to me, that's upgrades versus refunding the original service that they came in for. And on that side, I'm also not a huge fan of giving away an entire full service for free. Because again, our tendency when we're nervous about this or we feel bad about situations like this, we wanna go so over above and beyond, but it's a little ridiculous. And so we're like, come back in, I'm gonna do a full 6-hour color correction for free, it's on me, don't worry about it. And at the end of the day, that's not fair to you either. So if there's a smaller service that you can do that doesn't take as much time, it's not a full color correction or a full redo, again, you're going to have to use your judgment on certain things like this, because there will be times in your gut you know, okay, I need to offer a partial refund, or I do need to do another service because it just did not turn out anything like what we expected. So there will be things where you use your judgment, but for the most part, I don't think that we should ever really offer full refunds, maybe a partial refund, and I really don't think that we should ever offer full, complete services. But little adjustments like toners or trims or things that I've mentioned before, those are okay. We just wanna be really aware that we're setting boundaries with our clients, and again, asking them what would be fair in this situation to remedy it for you. I wanna make sure that I'm taking care of you, but ask them what would be fair, and most likely they're going to undershoot it versus what we would just go crazy on. And step number 6 is take this as a huge learning opportunity. So I want you to ask yourself, what can I learn from this entire experience? Maybe I need to get better at consultations, like I talked about in the beginning. Maybe I need to have more thorough consultations, or I need to get better at setting up myself for success and not promising the moon, sun, and stars, right? I need to set up better expectations so that my clients know what to expect from their appointment today. Maybe for you, you need a little bit more practice in the technique that you're doing. So maybe you need to grab a doll head, or you need to practice on some color swatches. I've got tons of videos on my channel that'll help you with more of the technical side of doing hair, but a lot of times it's not just head knowledge, it's actually doing it and getting your hands in hair, just getting out there and practicing yourself. Maybe the biggest thing that you learn from it is you need to get a new color line, or a new type of products, or a new hair extension line. Whatever the case may be, sometimes there are things that aren't necessarily your fault, but at the end of the day, it does fall on you as a professional because that's the color line you chose, or that's the retail line you chose, or whatever the case might be. So maybe you need to start experimenting with different color lines or different things that give you the results that you're looking for. Just remember that this is a huge, big opportunity to learn from our mistakes and not make them again as we move forward. And one thing I really want to share with you is, even if you mess up, or even if you screw up the hair so badly, it does not mean that you are a bad hairstylist. It does not mean that you're going to screw up every single client that comes in. I know so often when things like this happen, we can get really into our self-doubt and we start to think, I'm never gonna do this service again, or I'm never gonna take this type of client, or I'm never gonna touch hair color ever again, because we start to spiral and we start to think, I should just quit and give up and never do this again. We can spiral into thinking that every single client that comes in is going to be a mistake and we're gonna screw up, and don't do that. Like I mentioned, this happens to the best of us. No matter if you've been doing hair for 1 day or 10 years or 50 years, we still mess up. Things still happen. We don't set expectations right. And I want you to know that a lot of the big educators that you follow here on YouTube, on Instagram, no matter what, we all make mistakes. We just might not all talk about it. I try to talk about it here as much as I can, but we make mistakes. Things happen. It doesn't mean that you're a bad hairstylist. It doesn't mean that you're going to screw up forever. It doesn't mean that you should give up doing hair or doing a certain service. So don't beat yourself up over it. Learn from this mistake, learn from this experience, and move on. And remember, you are a good stylist. You just might need a little bit more help in one area, or you just might need a little bit help of managing client expectations. Whatever the case is, learn from it, move on, and do the rest of your clients the best to your abilities. Whew, I feel like I went to church today, but honestly, this is a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, because I get DMs from stylists all the time saying, Jamie, what do? I just screwed up someone's hair. I feel like I should give up being a hairstylist. Like, I don't know what to do. What would you do in this situation? And this is what I would do in this situation. You want to make sure that you're doing as much as you can. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that you're a bad stylist. So I hope that this video was helpful and encouraging for you, no matter where you are at your career, whether you're just starting out and you're afraid of making mistakes, or you've made mistakes in the past and you're wondering how the heck you can remedy them in the future. As always, if you haven't already come on over to Instagram and sent me a DM, please let me know that you watched this video, and I'd love for you to just send me a DM and tell me the most helpful step or bit of information you got out of this video. Just send me a message and I'd love to just hear from you about this one. And one more thing, if you found this video helpful, can you do me a favor and just comment down below one light bulb moment that you had from watching this video? I would love to hear what was one thing you pulled away from this video that you're going to utilize or remember as you move forward as a hairstylist in the rest of your career. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I cannot wait to see you next time. See you then. My name is Jamie Dana, and if you, because there are a lot of different variables, maybe you have messed up on somebody's hair before. Oh, frick, was that in the other take? I don't remember. There are gonna be, frick, okay. So whether it, wow, okay. Something's not quite sitting right or standing right or not standing right, that would be weird. And even if that means saying to something to your Step number 3, be transparent, frick. You wanna make sure that you go above and beyond. Oh, that was like real cheesy.